Hello and welcome to the Lost Soldiers Podcast. I am Shay Malik Abdullah with SaveCedarGrove.org. Here with me today, per the norm, he makes history handsome. The Dr. Tom Hanchett, founder of NewSouth.org. Tom is an author and a well-regarded historian here in Charlotte, author of Affordable Housing in Charlotte. Tom, I know that one's got quite a subtitle. Why don't you fill us in on that and say hello?
One city's history tells us about America's pressing problem. Just came out, UNC Press, and it's something that's getting some national attention. So very nice.
Well, congratulations on that, Tom, and I'm sure that it will be well received as it deserves all that recognition. Today with us, we're really excited to talk to Mr. Chris Brasel. Chris is the Director of Military and Veterans Services at University of North Carolina, Charlotte. Frequent visitor to Save Cedar Grove or to Cedar Grove Cemetery. Chris has been a part of many of our cleanup efforts there. He's a big supporter and sponsor of cedargrove.org. And we look forward to hearing more about Chris's experience as a veteran and the work he's doing at UNC Charlotte to make sure that the veteran community is well served and well aware of their opportunities from their service. So, Tom, like we always do, let's talk a little bit about Cedar Grove. What is that place? Why is it so great?
It's near Johnson C. Smith University, and right now we are in the Golden Bulls TV studio at Johnson C. Smith University, historically black college, on the west side of Charlotte. And it was a cemetery for most of the 20th century. It was privately owned, which meant that when the last person who was its caretaker owner passed away in the 1970s, it fell into disrepair, and Shay Malik Abdullah has been getting volunteers together to bring it back. Reese Across America has been real helpful. The good folks at Veterans Bridge Home. And Chris, how did you wander into this story?
Yes, well, number one, thank you for having me. Pleasure to be here. How many? 4 or 5 years?
I think we're looking at close to 4 years now.
Yeah, it's been some time here. So it came through our office, through the then Veteran Service Office, but we've changed the name since then. We had a student worker, Bethany Mavromatis, worked in our office as a VA work study. She was also an intern with Veteran Bridge Homes and somehow also connected to the anthropology department. So she's kind of our nexus point for all these things.
She's also a student veterans, the organization, the national organization. She was the president of that organization.
Yes, correct.
I remember.
So she was the president of the SVA chapter at that time. She has since graduated 2 years ago. I think she is still local to Charlotte, but she kind of brought us in through the office, talked about all the great things everybody was doing, and then we started organizing, getting some of our students out there to help out.
What did it look like when you first got there?
Oh, it was my first cleanup. I saw the dumpster and I was like, we're going to fill that thing. And then within probably an hour, we had that thing filled. It was really great to see. Duke was out there, Wells Fargo, lots of different orgs. It wasn't just us. And there was a great amount of people out there. But the vegetation that we were pulling out or trimming and cleaning and trying to get that place where you could at least see through it was pretty amazing.
Today it looks like a cemetery, kind of, mostly, if you're hip to that. But Shay, when you first saw it, it looked like a woods.
It was a forest for sure. I worked at the school. We talk about that often. University
Elementary
Park.
School right next door to it. Kids didn't know about it. Teachers didn't know about the cemetery.
Yes, University Park Creative Arts School, and I walk by the cemetery daily. The kids go by it twice a day, on the way into school and on the way out of school, and it literally was an overgrown forest. We had the opportunity, like Chris mentioned, Bethany Mavromatis, some other folks from UNCC, including Kevin Donaldson, was a student at UNCC studying history. He picked this project up, and that's how I found out about it. So it's pretty great that you're here, Chris, because it brings it full circle. Walking out of that school, recognizing that, the people buried there, abandoned there, were really significant people in Charlotte's history.
Right.
Through further research, we find out that the whole idea of that cemetery, and you may not even know this yet, Chris, but from the beginning, the idea was that would be a cemetery honoring the veterans that it served. So it was started as a veteran cemetery.
Oh, I did not know that, but I mean, I thought the percentage wise was really high for, you know, every time we go out there, there's new folks discovered and you know, grave sites found, it seems like.
Yeah, well, listen, that is a great transition, right? Because what's wonderful about that is that we continue to find veterans there. Right. We started with 6 originally. Although the goal didn't succeed of those guys to have this be a honorary military veteran cemetery, there's still quite a few there, like you mentioned. So we started with 6. We're up to 39 veterans in the Cedar Grove Cemetery, and we're hoping that we come across more so we can continue to tell these stories. As I often do, I'll share some of the names of our soldiers as we get further down the line. But I think it'd be really fun to share some information with you, Chris, about what we've learned at Cedar Grove, in addition to some research we've done on Camp Green. Do you know much about Camp Green?
I think you had mentioned it the last time I was down there for it was Memorial Day this year. I'd heard it mentioned, but I can't recall.
And Tom, with Camp Green, it holds such a significant history with the military connections of Charlotte, but particularly Black soldiers had a really interesting run there.
Camp Green was an Army training base. It was in existence for a couple of years during World War I. And at that point, Charlotte was a little bitty town, maybe 30, 40,000 people living here, and more than 40,000 trainees went through that camp. Initially, a lot of them were white folks from outside the South. And as time went along and the draft got bigger in order to meet the needs of World War I, in the last probably year or so, the majority of folks that came through there were African American, some of whom had connections to Charlotte, some who were just randomly assigned here. But some of those folks, we think, turned up at Cedar Grove.
Yeah, we're confirming some of that research, Chris, but we think, through that process, we had some soldiers inducted that ended up at Cedar Grove. Another really fantastic connection that we love to talk about, especially since we're here at JCSU, is the fact that Zachariah Alexander, are you familiar with that name?
Not off the top of my head, no.
So the Alexander Funeral Home, which you may have heard of, is one of the oldest Black businesses in Charlotte. Still operational today, very active, in fact. But the original founder of that business over 100 years ago was Zachariah Alexander. He was a veteran. He was also a graduate of Biddle University, which preceded JCSU in name only. He was the secretary of the Cedar Grove Foundation, the first Cedar Grove Association, I'm sorry. The president of that organization is buried there. And his name is R.B. Bruce. That's that big ornate monument we see up front.
Right.
So, the affiliations with JCSU and the military are just so strong that to have someone like you with veteran experience on the grounds there doing that work, serving these early veterans, what's that feel like for you? And tell us a little bit about your veteran journey, Chris, and what that's been like for your life.
Sure. I really had no intention of falling into this line of work, probably. It kind of fell into my lap. I had a pretty rough transition out of the military. Not that there was anything, it was an administrative thing for me, but I joined up in 2010 during the Iraq surge, went off to boot camp, did my whole thing, did a lot of follow-on training for my specialization, and then I ended up at Camp Lejeune. I was there with a Marine unit for quite a while, deployed to Afghanistan, came back, did a little less than a year at a naval hospital, and I had applied for an early out package. So at this point, I had my first child. I knew I was done with the military. I enjoyed my time, but I was never home. And so my wife was having a hard time raising the kid on our own, basically. And so I applied for this early out package. I was calling every week, hey, what's going on? No movement. That every week turns into every other week, turns into every month, and then kind of forgot about it. And so 4 months before I was supposed to get out, December 1st, 2014. I remember very vividly. I get a phone call, 8:05 in the morning. Congratulations, you're getting out. I said, oh, great. When? Today, 5 p.m. So, I mean, I went to work. I was a United States sailor, right? And then I went home at 5 as a civilian. And so there wasn't a lot of transition or getting anything in place. We had driven through Charlotte a lot on the way to home at that time, was outside of Atlanta. So we liked the city. We could tell it was growing. We were thinking this might be the place to settle down. And so at that point, no income. I just knew, hey, I need to go to school, get the GI Bill going. We need some money coming in. And went to school, UNC Charlotte, started off as a student there, and then quickly found my way to working in that office. And so a lot of it is me giving back to or seeing myself in those shoes of these students coming in. I've been doing this for about 10 years now. So I've seen a lot of changes within the veteran community, how we also try to include the military affiliated students, so those dependents, spouses, families of. One thing we talk about a lot is for every veteran we serve, there's usually 2 to 3 other people that are being affected by that as well, right? And so that hidden kind of impact that you see.
Well, I think that's really tremendous point that you make there, Chris, because when we think about our veterans in Cedar Grove and their families, and, that impact over time and really today, they're still, living members of those families that fall in that category. You said, tell us, when you were coming up, how was the veteran life or the military life a part of your growing up? Did you have experience with that?
Yes. And so the joke has always been in my family, it skips a generation.
Okay.
But on my father's side, his father, career Air Force, they moved all across the country. So my dad, military brat, moved around a lot. They settled back in Texas where they were from, and that's where I was born. But, I learned a lot about the military and that lifestyle from my grandfather. He served in Vietnam briefly. He had from what I gather, a very technical job. So he wasn't out there. He got sent out to go fix a very specific problem and then went back to the States. So I don't think he had done, tours, boots on the ground sort of thing. My mom's side, I'm actually ethnically half Chinese. So my mom's side, a lot of PLA Army experience on that side, which made for a very interesting top secret investigation when I went into the military trying to get some certain jobs. I didn't get them because of that family history, but it's okay.
No, I mean, that's really interesting. Just for the audience and my benefit, what is PLA?
People's Liberation Army on the Chinese side. Yeah. Okay. So there was some conscription on that side. And then after Mao took over, most of my family actually fled to Taiwan to get away from the Communist Party. But
what's funny is that that's why wars are fought, for things like that and those types of protections, et cetera. So I like to take a few minutes sometimes and read off some of the soldiers' names. We like to lift them up. We want to find any family members, relations, anyone that can share any information about these soldiers with us. So please reach out to us. You can hit us at info@savecedargrove.org, and we will get that information out on the show. So we're at Willie Brown, born in 1912, died in 1959. We also have Haywood Hazel Crowell. We mentioned him in our last episode, 1913 to 1946. Richard Cunningham, 1925 to 1961. Remember, our cemetery started in 1913 is our earliest burial that we're aware of. We have Samuel Davidson Jr., born 1943 and lived till May 1965. He was we're working out these letters here, but he was a specialist for headquarters company 4, or headquarters company, battalion 4, 68 Armor. Does any of that make any sense?
I was Navy, attached to the Marines, so the Army stuff is a foreign language to me.
Listen, that's great to know, Chris, and thanks for confirming that. So we had a Tech 4 engineer, Adam Davis, we actually had a chance to meet Adam Davis's daughter. Chris, this is a story that you may find interesting. One of our Memorial Day cleanups, we had some news coverage. From that news coverage, Adam Davis's daughter saw the coverage, and she reached out to the news station. She did not know that's where her father was. So because of that work that we all got together to do, she was able to locate her dad, who was a veteran. There was a follow-up story on that where they went and got her and brought her to Cedar Grove so she could visit with her father for the first time, I think, in over a couple decades. So that's the impact of the work that we're doing over there, and I think, that really matters. Tom, as Charlotte grows and has gone through these changes, we know the military has really had an impact here, but it's not one that's kind of overly highlighted or celebrated. Do you have any thoughts on that, or kind of where that sort of fits into the story?
Well, if you go way back to the Revolution, there were skirmishes fought here in the last days of the American Revolution, and the Charlotte folk, to the surprise of the British, ran the British general out of town, a guy named Lord Cornwallis. He wrote in his diary, said to have written that this was a hornet's nest of rebellion. So we have the Hornets basketball team, and Hornets are other places around town. If you come up into the 20th century, in addition to Camp Green, we were an Army quartermaster depot, which dovetails with a lot of the things that we've been finding with the Cedar Grove veterans. A lot of them worked behind the scenes, not on the battlefield, but getting stuff where it needed to be so that the fighters could fight. And here, that facility is now known as Camp North End, and it is a mixed-use, very exciting kind of innovation district here in Charlotte. So we have more history than you might imagine. But I'm really fascinated, Chris, with your talking about the veteran support efforts. That is something that I don't think existed when Cedar Grove was an active cemetery. I think that besides being able to apply for minimal benefits and a headstone, that there was not as much. Do you know more about how that's evolved?
Yeah, I mean, I was giving a presentation today to some academic advisors on campus, and one of our slides is a very brief history about VA education benefits, and so, a lot of hidden curriculum stuff. So it's all like explain acronyms, veteran affairs, education benefits, right? And so we were going through post 9/11, which I think was written into law back in 2014. Then the older Montgomery GI Bill, and then the general GI Bill that we think of that came out of World War II, right? And, back then there were colleges that didn't want GIs there. Right, like University of Chicago, famously very military friendly now. Apparently, the president wrote a letter stating, like, I don't want to have veterans on campus that are returning from World War II. Right, here in Charlotte, the school, 1946, Bonnie Cone kind of created the school as a place for returning GIs to go to school. And
UNC Charlotte, even though it's now a larger institution than Johnson C. Smith, is much younger. That's a useful thing to know.
Yeah, I mean, it's exploded, really. When you think about some of the other schools in the UNC system and, some of the other bigger schools, flagship schools around in the Southeast and their ages, right? We're a part of that 1946 post-World War II kind of wave of educational institutions. And so we've tried to do some work, kind of taking inspiration from you all, like going back and seeing if we can find the rosters of the very first kind of veteran students that attended school and seeing if we can trace those folks and have them come out and honor them. But it's, microfiche is not easy to find, store, read. Some of that's, lost down there.
Yeah, for the younger folks, I'll Google microfiche. You'll see some pictures of something that looks very odd to you, but it does exist and does have some information on it. But Tom, so glad that you brought that history angle up, because how fascinating. I really didn't know that literally the school was born out of veterans, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think within the UNC system, the two that I know of off the top of my head is UNC Charlotte, and then UNC Wilmington was also one of those 1946 established for returning GIs.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. So, Tom, tell us more about what that sort of returning history, like how did that shape Charlotte when these guys got back from the war? Do you recall through any of your research sort of maybe shifts in town? Did they live in certain places? Did they do certain work?
The GI Bill was housing assistance, and that is an apropos thing to be talking about this particular year when the most recent budget drafts in Washington are calling for major cuts in housing assistance. I think folks don't realize the extent to which middle class and even upper middle class housing was subsidized. Mortgage interest reductions, low interest loans, and things like that. Here in Charlotte, there had been suburbs in the 19 teens and 20s. If you know the city, Dilworth, Plaza Midwood, Elizabeth, places like that, maybe a mile and a half or so from the center city. And after World War II, within a space of 10, 15 years, all of a sudden, we're 5 or 6 miles out from the center of the city with these new suburbs of GI Bill houses. And it helped us become a nation of homeowners. Before that, maybe a third of families owned their own house. After the GI Bill and the Federal Housing Administration were put in place, 2/3. That's pretty much still where we are today. So that opening up and opening up of education as well. It was rare for folks to go to college before the GI Bill. And in my dad's generation, he served in North Africa and then came out and went to college. There are a lot of people like him. And so that's a powerful thing to realize. He is someone who, as far as I know, availed himself of no veterans benefits, would not talk about that except very briefly. He said he was sort of like Radar O'Reilly. He was the guy with the typewriter. That was his skill going in, and that was a rarity. So how does that fit into the package of helps that you are able to give folks?
Yeah, that's a very relevant topic for what myself and a lot of my colleagues are looking at right now. The model of veteran support in higher education over the last 10 years or so, it really is, a lot of us have been talking about this. It serves the global war on terrorism, the GWAT veteran that deployed to Afghanistan, deployed to Iraq. That support is maybe not outdated, but it has changed and definitely evolved to what we're seeing today, right? So I go to new student orientations all the time. The veterans that I'm seeing are just a little bit older than their peers, that traditional college student. They joined during COVID, no deployments in that way, right? Some of these conflicts have flared down. And so that military experience, their experience and mine is completely different, just like World War II, in between World War II and Vietnam. Like we see this in these generational waves, right? And so my thinking and a lot of the research and stuff we've been ideating now is how do we support this current generation of veterans? What are they looking for? Because my generation, we were looking for community. We wanted to be around other people that knew the load we carried. And maybe we didn't need to talk about it, but we needed to be in that same space. So you see a lot of veteran lounges on college campuses because of that. I don't know if that's what our new students want. They want support, but maybe not in a space like that. So it's one of those ever-evolving, ever-changing things that we're trying to stay on top of.
The thing that I've really admired with what you guys are doing at Cedar Grove is getting veterans involved, if they want to be, and building that kind of community. Talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is no matter what generation that we were just talking about, I think veterans, okay, well, let me back up a little bit. We all joined for a different reason. Every single person. Some was to go to school, some to lift ourselves out of economic situations. But I think even if you didn't go into it with it, by the time you get out of it, there is a little bit of that service connection, a call to serve, a meaning behind service. And so I've been involved in some other organizations that do that, disaster relief kind of things, where it's about that service to others. And you find that no matter where you are in your journey with the military, that is a way to connect people. And so having a cause like Cedar Grove, having a tie to the city that these students are going to school in, it all, ties it in a nice, neat bow. And we get these students out there to do something positive, right? Because this is not a knock on anything, but we find a lot of other veteran service organizations of the past are a social gathering and maybe, some food and beverage. And that was the thing. Whereas the newer or younger generations of veterans want to do something. We want to go clean something, want to use our hands, be in that community with those veterans, but for a purpose, right? Not just social.
Well, I'll tell you, that is one of the things that has really been sort of remarkable and eye-opening to me with the Cedar Grove project. When we started out, where our intention wasn't veterans, we didn't really know who was there. Mm-hmm. So as we started to discover that there were more and more veterans there, that theme sort of jumped out, and Veterans Bridge Home, through that relationship with Bethany, as we mentioned, and then Student Veterans Association, et cetera, really helped us explode the opportunity to get that place cleaned up. And one of the things I really enjoyed about it, and you really touched on it, is to get that group together to do something is remarkable. It really is remarkable, because you can see that military training pop out where there is no bickering, no I'll do this, no I do that. There's not a lot of competition going on where, someone wants to be the star of the cleanup or that type of stuff. It's just this unity, right? This sort of quiet unity of purpose that we see out there when we get these veteran groups out there. And that's just been astounding and touching to me, One of the things that I learned as a part of the effort was spurred by Tom and some of his research, where we found Wendell French, who's one of our soldiers. Wendell served in World War II. I mix this up all the time. I might be dyslexic, Tom, but I think it's the 643rd Port Company.
Oh, those numbers. I don't do numbers.
Yeah, exactly. I think it was the 643rd.
Ships. That was his job. And they sent him halfway around the world to do that. He ended up in England. And you can't unload ships 24 hours a day. And so he would go off and explore the countryside with his buddies.
Yeah.
And wrote about it, which is fascinating.
Absolutely fascinating. Tom found this book in Maine. They kept like a yearbook of their journey. Mm-hmm. Long story short, as I start to read this, Wendell mentions my grandfather, who we weren't certain had served. And he served in World War II along with one of the veterans at Cedar Grove. So that was a pretty remarkable and touching moment for me, right? That, the veteran drive to really support this effort has led me to a military connection.
Right. I remember you talking about this, and it felt like serendipitous. Like it was such a, I don't know if, coincidences or fate or whatever, but this project that you're working on, then to come around and touch you again in this way, it's pretty remarkable.
Remarkable to me too. And I don't know what to call it. I refuse to label it almost, right? I just sort of run with it. Right. And here's what we're doing. Chris, I'm going to take a second and share with you a story. Hopefully pretty short, but I wanted to read to you about one of our veterans. Mm-hmm. His name is Alexander. Nickname is L. Torrance. Charles and Rachel Parker led a group of African Americans to buy land along Remount Road, which you may be familiar with. We'll tell you a little bit more about that history later because it's fun. 2 miles east of Moore's Sanctuary. So this is out like West Boulevard area. Beginning in the 1890s, by 1920, 16 black families owned over 150 acres of land. Most farmed their land through although many supplemented what they could produce on their land with jobs on the railroad or in local factories or in domestic service to white households. Several worked under the supervision of Parker at the fertilizer plant on Tremont Road near the railroad tracks in Dilworth. For the audience, we'll send you a map, but these are some local Charlotte places that may not be familiar, but they are very relevant to our story here on Lost Soldiers. Many were fellow members of Moore's Sanctuary AME Zion Church, including one of the church's namesakes, Reverend Dublin Moore. So it is striking how in the early 20th century community was anchored by families that had been enslaved in their younger years. Daniel Torrance was a longtime neighbor of the Parkers. He purchased 15 adjacent acres at the corner of Remount Road and West Boulevard during slavery. When Charles toiled in the farm fields of Stanley County, Daniel was put to work building the North Carolina Railroad that opened Charlotte to the rest of North Carolina. So another just sort of touch point on Charlotte and how its military role was really driven by the railroad coming through here as well. I think at one point Charlotte had like a naval base, which is pretty ironic, right? Since
they made
not a slip of water.
Explosives.
I was going to say, I
World War
think
II.
this connects up to Norfolk through the railroad.
Yeah.
And, you know,
Okay.
there's a lot of stuff
Cool.
up there.
Okay, makes much more sense now, right? To have a naval base in the almost landlocked piece of real estate here in the country. So during the Civil War, he was part of the crew that built defensive battlements around Raleigh, and was then brought to Charlotte to work in the Confederate Navy Yard. There we go.
I was thinking about the World War II shell plant. You're reminding me that there was indeed this naval yard here. Thank you.
Yeah, Confederate Navy Yard also. So, again, the mind-blowing history, and we can keep coming across it. After the war, Daniel settled here and married Margaret Reddish, with whom he raised 12 children as Parker's next-door neighbor. At his death in 1930, the Charlotte Observer recounted his life story and referred to him as a widely known Charlotte Negro man. Daniel's son was Alexander, known as L, and he was well known in the community. He barbered out of his home on the site for many years. Frances Streeter, Ross Reed's niece who grew up on West Boulevard, described L this way. He was the neighborhood barber. I would stop by his house, walking home from Second Ward High School, and he would have a pie made, and we'd give us a piece of pie. I think there were some plums, apples, and pears. They had a whole farm there. So that's just a little kind of background on what people were going through. Now, the funny thing is that I've met people that remember L. Torrance cutting their hair, like on his front porch, while they ate a slice of pie. How funny is that?
Wow.
And we talk about service. They mentioned Moore Sanctuary, AME, which also has a really remarkable history here in Charlotte, but it also has some military connections. And one of my favorites over there was a gentleman named Dr. Charlie Sifford. Are you familiar with Dr. Sifford? He was a veteran, but he was also the first black pro golfer straight out of Charlotte here. And he's buried over there right now at Moore Sanctuary. Wow. He's one of the soldiers we hope to celebrate on Lost Soldiers at some point. Some of his relatives are still around. We know them and are looking forward to having them on the show at some point. Tom, Moore's Sanctuary, and that, that's kind of near where Camp Green was.
It's sort of between Camp Green and the airport. It's off Morrisfield Drive, and Morrisfield was a World War II airfield that was eventually pulled into the Charlotte Douglas Airport. But that AME Zion denomination is very important nationally. Started out in New York. It was the home church for people like Frederick Douglass and Harriet Tubman. But when they got gentrified out of New York, they moved to Charlotte. And so the world headquarters of the AME Zion religion is here. A lot of older churches, a lot of community building there. And Bishop Bruce, who is honored with the largest headstone at Cedar Grove Cemetery, was an AME Zion bishop.
And, again, remarkable connection, how that all comes back. Morrisfield Drive, right? I did not know that was a wartime airfield.
There you are.
Unbelievable.
Lots of stories to tell.
Tons of stories to tell. Chris, listen, we've had a pleasure just to get to chat with you, learn more about you and your veteran experience and all the awesome stuff that you guys are doing. If people want to find out more about what's happening at UNCC and the opportunities there through the military, what's the best advice you have?
I would say go to the website. So, we try to put out everything digitally so that everybody can attend our events. While we are on, a college campus, we are open to anybody, right? Prospective students could be anybody that walked in off the street. So we do a lot of events where we bring community in. We connect folks to the VA, Mecklenburg County Veteran Services, Cabarrus, Iredell, all the surrounding counties really here in Charlotte. And so we have those things open to everybody all the time, right? You could be, your neighbor needs some assistance with veteran benefits. bring them to campus. We'll be able to help out.
That's a fantastic service that you guys you offer, and I'm so happy to hear that it's open to the community. Before we go, I did want to touch base a little bit about Reads Across America, because you've been heavily involved in that. We appreciate UNCC for being a big supporter of that. We're on Reads Across America Radio, so it's a wonderful family of opportunity to share these veteran stories and do those different things. Tell us about our last wreaths ceremony back in December. You guys were there for that and big supporters.
That was I was very happy with that. Both of our student organizations participated. So our Student Veterans Association chapter was there, and then our Military Women's Alliance was also there in attendance. I brought my kid.
Oh yeah,
she had a blast at the food the food truck that was there that supported that event. But to me, I think it was really important for my students and even personally my daughter to see these sort of things, right? My day-to-day work involves the military a lot, but honestly, if you met me out in town, you probably wouldn't know that. I don't have the stickers on my car and any of that stuff. I don't have any of the things in my house. They're all in my office at work. So I don't talk about it a lot with my kids. They know it's not that I hide it, but it's not a topic that comes up a lot. So to see the impact this can have, the solemnness, how the sacredness of these sort of things, and honoring those that have gone before us and their sacrifice, I think is really important for the younger generations to see. I was there for years, and then I tried to turn around and get on 85 and go to another Reads Across America event to support, because I think that's a great event and a very important one across the nation.
Well, that's fantastic, and I imagine that you went to Forest Lawn.
It was up in Concord at the Wood.
Oh, the big veterans.
Yeah,
Cemetery,
yeah.
Okay,
We work with the American Legion up there.
Oh, okay, fantastic. We'll have to get those guys down sometime.
Yeah.
But listen, we're excited to continue working with you, getting more and more students out there, let them have that experience. And as we continue our research, we look to work with you guys to support what you're doing over there, and continue growing this Charlotte story, talking about our beloved veterans and the opportunities to support them as they transition into the community after their service time. And we can't wait to see you again out on the field, or out there in the muck, the forest, the mix, the craziness
with the boots on.
Yeah, the craziness that happens in cleaning that place up. Tom, give us some parting words.
Chris, thanks to Josh Nypaver for being our engineer here, and welcome is to the Golden Bulls TV studio here on the campus of Johnson C. Smith University. Veterans Bridge Home helps out a lot. The folks that place wreaths on those veterans' tombstones, Wreaths Across America, help out a lot. Thank you all.
Yeah, thank you for that, Tom. We also want to shout out Dr. Cheryl Curtis, who runs the Military and Veterans Affairs here at Johnson C. Smith. She's got some wonderful programs going on. Please check her out, jcsu.edu. Thanks to Dr. Cheryl Butler-Brayboy. And as Tom mentioned, our engineer, Mr. Josh Nypaver. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Lost Soldiers. Can't wait to see you next time.